We would like maybe change up. Behind your back.
Ladies and gentlemen， 各位观众朋友，大家现在所在的现场是2017年 FISE 极限运动世界巡回赛的现场。我们现在在这个赛场看到的是核心单车 BMX 职业组半决赛的热身。看到这个动作场面，再来一个嘛！大家想看一下吗？这边鼓励一下给我们小雷，姚博，我想看这个大热的 Let's go！ 大
Everywhere, every sport's going crazy. I don't know what to expect. Like, it's FISE.
The crowd is absolutely ecstatic to watch you ride, and the whole atmosphere is absolutely unreal. So much fun.
It's so very special because you don't see that anywhere else except for at FISE.
Fucking 30-foot wide rock. Bro, that's just like 30 feet wide. Come on. You're gonna box at home 5 feet. It's like home. You started on the right side. On the left side. It's home, bro. Great. I want to dip 7 to fuck up that hit, or dip 8-10 that hit.
Welcome everybody, this is FISE World Series and we are live here in Chengdu. Thank you very much. It is the FISE presented by Honor and we are about to get ready for the BMX Park men's semi-final about to go down here in Chengdu. I am Ryan Meyer, your host out here for the FISE World Series, joined by my very good commentator, Daryl Nell. Daryl, thanks for joining us out here.
Ryan, I got to tell you, as being a lifelong BMX rider from Brooklyn, New York, it is such a pleasure to be out here with a fellow rider such as yourself. I know that you mainly ride mountain bikes, but I know that you have always dabbled in BMX. You recently were living out in Amsterdam, and it's very cool that we have an opportunity to witness 24 of the world's best riders in a few moments in our UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup men's semi-final. So right now we're taking a look at our our stage, our battlefield for our riders, but the way it's going to break down, we are going to talk about a format out here. This is our semi-final, 24 riders. They're going to be broken down into 6 heats of 4 riders. Each rider is going to have 2 runs with 60 seconds or on the clock, and it is going to be an overall impression. So 24 riders, 6 heats of 4 riders apiece, 2 runs, 60 seconds each per rider, and an overall impression. So what that means, it doesn't matter if you are the first rider or the 24th rider, you are going to be on the course battling out your fellow competitor, and we are going to be taking 12 riders moving on to the final. But right now we are looking at our 5 judges. You can take a look on the left, we've got Hank Dave Cleworth. Then over on the far right side of the screen, rocking the beanie, we've got the legend Van Homan. We also have Igor Vukadinovic from Croatia. The man with the white sunglasses is Bibi, aka one of the best trail riders out there from France. And then the man rocking the black cap and white t-shirt is none other than Marcus Wilke. So if you take a look at our 5 judges out there, the man who is front and center, that is the street legend Van Homan. If that name sounds familiar for anybody who's been following any of the 20 years of our FISE World Series, you would remember back in 2000, Van actually was our FISE Series champion in Montpellier, where he got first place doing some very progressive street moves. One of the biggest was an over double peg grind with, I believe, a bar spin might have been thrown in for good measure. But those are going to be our 5 judges who are going to basically breaking down the madness out here. There are going to be 10 eyeballs that are going to be glued to the course. It's an overall impression, and those are the people that the riders want to impress the most to get your top score, because we are taking 12 on to the finals. Riders will be awarded a point from 0 to 100. They are going to be looked at for an overall impression, difficulty of tricks, also frequency of tricks, speed, style, and flow out on the course.
A rider who has been able to absolutely dominate that entire criteria field, and a rider who dissects the judges' criteria very heavily at all the contests is Daniel Dhers. Check out his runs from here in Edmonton last stop.
Daniel Dhers showing you why he's our current points leader. Daniel Dhers was battling the elements. The winds were whipping out there. Riders were not even sure if they were going to be taking the field. And Daniel Dhers just stuck to his formula that said, you know what, let me throw down some of the hardest tricks on every single obstacle. You see that variation spin over our worm hip. There is an enormous transfer from the box jump landing all the way into that camelback. as Dhers with the huge 360 double tail whip transfer. That was one of the biggest tricks of the competition. He also did that in the middle of his run, just showing you why he was on top, not only at Edmonton, but he is sitting with a very big points lead coming into our fourth and final stop.
So some amazing riding, like usual, out there from Daniel Dhers in Edmonton. Let's see if he is able to push through this semifinal as well and come out for the final that we're going to have tomorrow. I'm sure he is going to be able to do so, but who knows? There is always some pressure. We had some upset as well with Logan Martin, where he wasn't able to compete in Budapest, I believe. So we're going to have to see how all the riders are able to amount to the circumstances and push through the semifinals. Let's take a look at our rider list. So we're going to be moving through these 24 riders momentarily in this BMX freestyle semifinal.
Yeah, 24 riders. Again, it doesn't matter if in the first heat or last. We've got from the US of A, Wesley Hart, Declan Brooks, Anthony Jean-Jean, Nukamura Rim, Martin Rantesh, Jonathan Camacho, Paul Tholen, Cam Peak, Kyle Baldock, Kenneth Tencio, Jake Walwork, Nick Bruce. I mean, those are some enormous names, some of the biggest in BMX. Kyle Baldock, Nick Bruce.
Kostya Andreev as well, some of the top riders out here, the top riders competing in BMX freestyle. Irek Razev as well, who we're talking about the highlights of his amazing best trick out there with the 360 tail whip to bar spin to opposite tail whip back. As well, Brandon Lupos in the mix there, Pat Casey, Colton Walker, Jack Clark, Alex Colborne, Daniel Sandoval, Daniel Dhers, and Logan Martin. So those are going to be the top riders that are going to be competing out here today. Riders are going in reverse seating order, so that is in the reverse order of how they are stacked on the tour.
Yesterday we had our open qualifier, open to all riders throughout BMX here in China. We actually took our top 20 riders. They were joined by our top finishers in Edmonton and also our defending champion Logan Martin. So that's going to be the first time that we have an opportunity to see our top riders out on the course from Edmonton and also from your defending champion. It's always interesting to watch the way that your riders bring a little bit something else to the party. I mean, this battlefield out here, these unique features were designed specifically for our final by our FISE ramp builders, and the fact that we have an opportunity, Ryan and myself, to even see the first time these guys on the course is very interesting and exciting. But right now, taking the course for his first time of 60 seconds, this is Wesley Hark.
Whoa! Starting heavy there, and that is how he made it from the qualifications into this semifinal. Wesley Hart with a big 1080 there right out of the gate into a solid 720 on the long step up. Check out the way he's flowing up with that manual up the roller.
You are right, that 1080 is 3 times around, 1, 2, and 3. Hart with one of the bigger tricks for his first red carpet entrance out there. Really rolling the dice, and the judges know that when you put down a big difficult trick, your first hit, you have a lot that could potentially go wrong, and Wesley Hart really making his presence felt out here, saying, you know what, I'm going to set the standard. Hopefully he'll have the score to beat after our first heat. We can see the judges' thoughts. But Hart right now charging as he has 6 seconds left, downside 360 tail whip, and his final moments as buzzer is going off. Hart with just a nice little 180 across the top. A big run for Wesley Hart.
Beautiful run starting it off, and going to be setting the bar very high up there for all the other 23 competitors coming down out here in the semifinal. Wesley Hart from the USA really pushing hard there in run 1, getting some huge banger tricks like that 1080 right out of the gate, but holding his composure all the way through his entire run. I'm going to be really excited to see what the judges think of that. He is going to be setting the bar for the other riders, like I said. So the judges are going to be up there discussing where is that score going to be for the rest of the competitors going through. We'll have to see after the 2 runs are done out here in Heat 1.
So our second warrior looking to take the battlefield, Great Britain's own Declan Brooks. You can see he is locked, loaded, sleeveless, and charging with the backflip double bar spin, a lot of height. Carving around our honor capsule. Declan one-handed X up, walking the plank. You see him going the distance in a big bar spin out of that manual. Declan!
Oh, love that transfer, hip right over the entire box jump, going from the spine to the hip landing.
You see Declan playing with fire out there, landing on the very side of the quarter pipes, but it's paying off big as it sets up for that can-can transfer. No-hander on the elevated side of the course and a 360 tail tap. Declan accelerating with speed. Wow. Great use of the course. Both of those transfers.
Yes! And wow, absolutely beautiful utilization of the entire course out here. Amazing lines that Declan is taking.
I got to tell you, this is one of the most impressive runs that we've seen from Declan all year long. Talk about bringing the heat here to our semi-final.
Wow, wow, wow. I have nothing else to say. That was absolutely amazing creativity. And he just mastered that entire course. You could see how comfortable he is out there. You know, that's the cool thing about coming to all these different courses around the world. Every stop is a little bit different. Nothing is going to be the entire same. Even though the FISE crew takes out the same ramps to all the different spots, you can just see like riders like Declan out here coming in, just putting their own take on it, having so many different lines that not a normal rider would see just looking at that course from first glance.
Declan with one of the most exciting runs we've seen so far out of the entire 2017 season. But a man looking to up the ante, our third rider of heat number 1, the Frenchman, Anthony Jean-Jean, dropping in. Bar spin over that back jump backwards. It is level of difficulty is increased because your landing is steeper. Woo! Setting things going with that backflip double tail whip known as the helicopter. Jean-Jean tuck no-hander, Superman C-grab over the hip. You see he puts the bike completely sideways. Throwing down a few more toppings on the trick, hoping for those points. Downside tail whip transferring from the extension all the way into the large quarter pipe. Ryan, he is hauling across the park, picking up speed for that 360 bar spin. Jean-Jean flaring up high. You saw he landed very high into that quarter pipe, able to pick up his momentum. Coming down, setting up for that wall ride to tail whip. Jean-Jean. Boom. Still looking to put some scores in. Wow. Yes. Flare tail whip right there. Big way to put an exclamation point of his first run. You see him getting a well-deserved pound from a fellow rider on deck. Getting a lot of props.
Looks like the last stop of the tour has really pushed all the riders to step up their game. This is turning out to be one of the most jam-packed semifinals I have seen in history of the FISE BMX.
Yeah, we had over 80 riders in our open qualifier. The fact that we were able to cut the pack down to 24 is so impressive. But right now, we are taking a look for our first time of our Japanese rider on the tour. This is Nakamura Rim. So as we wind up finding our Japanese rider on the course, again, we're going to take this opportunity to discuss that all riders have a choice of creativity where they want to start. And that usually will wind up favoring their riding, maybe to set up for speed, to hit the box jump first, maybe to get very technical, or to set themselves up for an entire 60-second run where they can lace together the tricks like that 360 bar spin to can-can. Nakamura Rim charging.
Rim is definitely charging out there. The Japanese Red Bull rider, 360 bar spin to 360 tail to bar spin, coming hauling around that honor dish. 360 turn down on the spine. Beautiful amplitude on the quarter pipe.
Yo, Rim throwing the bars around. I think that might have been 3 times.
I believe you're correct at that. 360 triple bar spin. Suicide no-hander over that spine jump and going back into the wall ride with a bar spin out.
Rim's got a cool setup on his bike. He has 3 pegs, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. Usually when you see a rider with that type of setup, it means there's a lot of creativity going on. And Rim right now showing you his creative lines on the course as the clock winds down. Very cool tail whip right there, downside style, grabbing the pedals. Nakamura rim out here, letting his presence be known. So Ryan, as we go through our first 4 riders, we're gonna go back to the top for their second run, but we are seeing consistency out here like no other stop we have seen so far. And what that's going to mean is that our competition is going to get heated. I have a feeling that the level of riding is going to be that which we would be accustomed to seeing in a final, especially with tricks like that 360 tail whip to bar spin, and there kicking that tail whip where he hovered all of his weight above the handlebars. So we are going back to the top. You can see on top of the huge sub box, the USA rider of Wesley Hark. Again, we talked about being positioned so that they have the choice to hit whatever obstacle they want first. It looks like Wesley Hark is going to set up to have a clean hit at the box jump. And let's see if I am correct. Boom!
Oh, I was just going to say, how do you answer to starting a run off with a 1080 like you did in run 1? You come back swinging with the other biggest trick you can do in airs. Double backflip. Going an opposite 720 on the box jump there.
Wow, we're seeing Wesley Hark take some pages out of Brian Fox's book, who's not with us, but I know Fox is definitely watching at home. He's a rider on our tour who has thrown down that 1080 very comfortably. Also the double backflip. And Wesley Hark right now putting his own Midas touch here in Chengdu as he does a 720 over the box, over that step down. That is an extended spine only with a 6-inch deck. And I call it a step down because you are traveling 12 feet on that landing as opposed to 6 feet on the takeoff. And Hark is putting another ender right here with a nice little 180 half cab out, putting the fist up, and our fans here in Chengdu awarding Wesley Hark with a huge round of applause. Getting that pound there from Mr. Camacho, yet to ride. You see him rocking a wild party color shirt. It's usually very symbolic of his riding.
Now, I did say an opposite 720, but watching the rest of his run, he may be a goofy-footed rider. I'm not 100% sure, as I have previously never watched Wesley Hark ride. So do not hold me to that, but still amazing riding coming out of the young American rider out here all the way in China. But let's talk about Declan Brooks' absolutely astonishing first run.
The man showing off the guns. I believe that was a triple bar spin. His first run, he did the double. Said, you know what, I'm turning things up for my second run. I am not going to be resting here. There are 24 complete animals on their BMX who are looking to be one of the top 12 qualifying. And Declan right now, blasting the hip, charging. Look how fast he's going, setting up with that can up.
Now, one thing that you notice about Declan's run out here is he has so much speed, and he doesn't slow down for any feature. He just keeps going further than his other competitors, transferring to different heights, and that's really amazing how he's able to flow that together on the entire course. Going ice pick to toothpick in over the spine, 360 double bar spin, almost a Nyquist style there as he flows over the spine.
Yeah, Declan foot jam fakie. Guns on display. If you're gonna go sleeveless, that's one way to do it on the course. Declan smashing 2 solid runs. Again, consistency has been the name of the game for heat number 1 as we are halfway through our second runs. When we look at Declan's backflip no-hander, great extension. You see the handlebars go all the way in his lap, enabling him to take the hands off. There is a 270 one-handed X-up as Declan goes around.
We speak about how this is a 2-run, both runs count format out here in BMX freestyle, so you really have to wow the judges on both runs. You really saw that in Declan's riding. He had 2 completely different setups going through. Let's see how Jean-Jean pulls together for his second run. Starting off with that nice bar spin backwards over the box into that beautiful bar spin attack no-hander.
Yeah, Anthony, backflip bar spin around the capsule. Honor style, using it like a berm, setting up, slingshotting out, tail whip over the hip. Jean-Jean double tail whip, landing high, setting up for that transfer tuck no-hander floating. Tail whip downside version. Anthony looking to bring back that momentum. You see him taking a lot of pedals out there, but he's able to get that transfer onto our elevated portion of the course. Takes a lot of energy if you're going to try to build your speed by pedaling. Traditionally, the judges favor if a rider is able to build momentum by pumping through the course. What that means is pushing into the transition. You could actually accelerate and landing higher. You see Jean-Jean right now slowing down a little bit in speed, but able to stop that flare right there, backflip 180, as he puts together a second run for the Frenchman. We see a future rider yet to go, Paul Tholen right there, waving to the camera saying, "Hey Mom, I'm yet to ride, but I know you're watching on FISE.tv." As we take a look at some of Anthony's highlights, backflip bar spin. You saw how beautifully he spotted that landing. A lot of bike control. He actually adjusted his speed on the backflip by moving his head and adjusting how far the bicycle was pulled in or pulled out from his body to adjust the rotation speed.
Going back to our Japanese rider, Rim Nakamura, pardon me. Nice 360 double bar spin going from the spine. One of the riders who is actually closest to home, I would say, but huge amplitude on that Honor quarter pipe. 360 double whip coming around. Nice, the 360 tuck no hander on the spine as well. 33 seconds left, halfway through Rim's run. Nice 720 over the box jump there. It's the first time we're able to see the Japanese rider in competition out here on the FISE series. Beautiful amplitude and tabletop.
Yeah, Rim tail whip transferring in. Alley-oop bar spin. So the thing here, the final moments seem like they're going to come down to every aspect of each rider, because we're seeing consistency. And you watch as he pushes the bike forward, taking all limbs off, grabbing the seat with both hands, and Rim throwing the bike right back under him. So heat number one, a lot of consistency. We can see our in-field MC. That is one of the most colorful characters in BMX, Catfish. You can follow all of his adventures on his Instagram, Catfish vs. Thug. As we're looking at Rim's flare, very high. The Japanese rider, 720, spotting that landing, 2 full 360s. Add them together. We can see our riders out here on the battlefield for heat number 2, warming things up. We're going to take this opportunity to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, talking about Worm. They are one of the coolest apps in all of action sports. If you got your smartphone, which I know you do, following the action along, just go into the App Store, type in WORM, and you can download an app for a very cool interactive experience where riders can upload. Also, yourself can put up content where you can slow-mo and slow down any trick or footage that you'd like. It's such a cool interactive experience. Not only that, you can also throw down any hashtag that you want. So if you're going to download and put on any of your own content, please put the hashtag FISE20 or FISE CHENGDU, because I personally would love to see what you got on the Worm app. But right now, we are looking at some of our highlights. That was the big double backflip from Wesley Hark. Look at the height on that flare, popping lots of amplitude, as Ryan would say when describing a rider transferring off planet Earth.
Absolutely some amazing transfers and just beautiful line selection that we saw out of Declan Brooks in his first on his first run there in heat number 1. So, I mean, I almost felt like he was teasing us a little bit, showcasing, okay, you guys, I'm at the bottom of the grid here for the semifinals. I want to be at the top of the grid for the finals. I'm going to show you guys exactly how this course is meant to be ridden. And then I'm going to kind of hold back a little bit for my second run, just kind of solidify my spot into the finals, and then we'll really showcase how much I got for the finals tomorrow.
Yeah, it's very important that a rider really brings the heat and brings the action. But if you are following us, please keep it continued over on our Facebook, FISE.official. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FISEWorld. If Snapchat is your thing, you can see a lot of behind-the-scenes content at FISE World Series. And if you are on the web, you can check out our mothership, FISE.tv, where you can see all results, content, and also our videos as well. If you are on your smartphone, you could download our app. Just search FISE, and you can stay up to date with all the action going on, not only with this year's World Series, but FISE, 20 years strong. Always so many exciting things, especially as BMX is progressing towards the Olympics in Tokyo 2020. So you want to make sure that you check out all of our platforms, and this way that you can stay up to date with everything that we have for next year. We are taking a look at our judges. Again, you can see to the right of your screen, Van Homan, that is the street legend, the 2000 FISE champion, having an in-depth conversation with Marcus Vilk, talking about the course. You could also see in the background our UCI flag blowing a little bit. The outdoor conditions can be a factor out here, but the judges have one of the hardest tasks in all of BMX. They not only have to judge each rider's run, but at the same time they have to compare each run to the riders who have yet to go. So the way that usually works, you put down a first score. You want to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room to say, hey, how does this other rider compare? And you want to wind up seeing how the riders will sit and seed against each other. Now, in our semifinal here, we have 24 riders. That means they're going to be taking 2 runs apiece. That means that the judges have to make sense of 48 runs out there. They have to remember every single trick, every single turn, and every single move that a rider has on the course, and they will issue a point from 0 to 100. So we're looking at a future rider who's yet to go. That is none other than Jonathan Camacho. He is going to be a rider in heat number 2. I am digging his shirt out there. Definitely a little bit of a Hawaiian party style.
Very representative of his personality out there. So Catfish is getting ready to warm up the crowd out there on our beautiful course out here, presented by Honor for the brave athletes of the FISE World Series. If you guys are just joining us, we're about to get ready for heat number 2 of 6 of the BMX, the UCI BMX Freestyle World Cup semifinals going on here on the 4th stop of 4 on the FISE World Series. We are live in Chengdu, China. It's an absolutely amazing experience to be out here with all our friends and competitors and the entire crew of FISE, bringing all the action to you from the massive international field.
Now, Ryan, one thing we want to mention, you and I are very familiar with the FISE World Series is all about, but for maybe some of our new viewers, FISE has been around for over 20 years, one of the most premier events in all of action sports. This year in our World Series, we have over 7 different sports that are featured, but right now we're going to focus on BMX in particular. The main reason being, in 2020, BMX was just invited, BMX Freestyle, I should say, was just invited to join the Olympics as a sport. So last year, in 2016, FISE partnered with the UCI, which is the biggest sanctioning body in all of cycling, and said, hey, you know what? Let's step up our game and let's create the platform moving towards the Olympics. But as scores coming in, it looks like Declan Brooks is going to be in that top spot with the 78, followed by Anthony Jean-Jean with the 77, Rim Nakamura 73.60, and Wesley Hark with the 72.80. Now, one thing I want to note about those scores, not one score broke into the 80s, and I got to tell you, we saw very impressive riding from our first heat of riders. That can mean one of 2 things. The judges might go, hey, this is going to ride like a final. Everyone's bringing their A game. We want to be conservative with scores, so we have some wiggle room. Or it could just mean that, hey, you know what, the judges are looking to really step up the ante as far as riders are moving towards the Olympics. But right now, the Croatian, Martin Rantesh on the course, you see a double bar spin transferring over after a nice hit on the box jump, double tail whip over the hip into our Honor quarter pipe.
Martin is our one and only, wow, 360 tail whip into another 360. That means a 720 whip out of the Croatian rider. Like I was saying, he is our only rider from Croatia onto the tour. 360 double bar spin back on that spine. Marin is back. Yeah, Had a couple injuries throughout the season and been pushing through every single FISE stop.
Yeah, Rantesh double tail whip, 10 seconds. Again, these are going to be the moments that matter. If a rider can keep that momentum cruising, where they show that they're in complete control and also that they have awareness of where the course is at. Flared tail whip. The judges want to see that 60 seconds utilized in such a way that a rider is positioned with a lot of momentum, and if they can hit a transfer or a trick that they wanted to do, maybe as opposed to just one of their more comfortable tricks on a quarter pipe, that's definitely going to favor more. So we're seeing Mr. Rantesh double tail whip. There is that 720 tail whip. That was definitely a highlight within his run. There is a flare tail whip. So a lot of tail whips with different variations from the Croatian.
Camacho out there with a very colorful riding selection of clothing.
Yeah, definitely.
All the way from Ecuador.
Definitely highlights his personality. Camacho is one of the more fun guys on the tour that you can spend time with on or off the bicycle. As Camacho, whoa, big height for that flare tail whip. Just getting in there. Kicking it downside over the hip. Some extra style points with that no-footer bar spin, fishtailing into the quarter pipe, into a double tail whip. Camacho on fire right now, 270 bar spin. You see that foot jam. There are no front brakes on the bike. He's able to stop his bike and momentum by putting his foot right in that front tire. Camacho around our honor capsule as he cruises backwards over the box with a 360 bar spin. Yeah, Camacho, 360 double tail whip. Really wants to place into this final. Every rider wants to be on the main stage here at our FISE World Series. The Chengdu crowd is just giving it up as he wraps around that head tube on the downside 360 tail whip, and that is going to be time for Camacho.
Beautiful run out here. Oh, finishing off strong there with a 540 bar spin and another flare just for the crowd. Getting a little extra practice out there on the courts. I almost didn't recognize Catfish. Thought he was one of Chengdu's top rappers out there with the whole new new dreadlock and glass appearance. Check out some beautiful highlights from run one here of Mr. Camacho. Going into the young German rider, Paul Tulin. Kind of blew up on the scene 2 years ago. Ended up getting some big support out there in the community. Check out the beautiful style from the rider. He goes so fast and hard around the course. That's really one of his specialties.
Yeah, when Paul exploded onto the scene, his style was such a breath of fresh air. Speed is definitely a factor. You can see the way he just flows and floats around the park. Definitely influenced by some of the more stylish guys out there. You see he has no pegs on his bike. Also, no brakes. It's a choice the way a rider can set up their own bicycle. There is that freedom aspect. A freestyle, big boost on that 360. You saw the way he actually utilized his body, even his legs, specifically his back one, to just get the height and float around. Inverted foot plant on our subwall. Let's see, can Paul keep the gas up? I know it's the final moments, but that is what's going to separate our top 12. Foot jam fakie, yes! Great way to end it, getting technical right there. You're going to see some riders, maybe such as Pat Casey, who has yet to ride, when they go backwards, they have a thing called a free coaster on their bike that enables them to cruise. Paul has a cassette back wheel, and when you're going backwards, you actually have to engage your cranks and pedal ahead of it so that you can stay on point. But there was that 360, a lot of height and a lot of style. One of my favorites that we've seen in his run as we are moving through our pack for our fourth rider, heat number 2. This is Cam Peak coming all the way from Great Britain.
Cam Peak dropping in here, going up the tall step up or up the tall spine. Yes, 360 tail whip to bar spin. Nice toboggan over the left-hand hip and rolling into that honor dish. So he flows backwards with that 360 bar spin. Nice flare transfer and going 360 bar spin to tail whip from the spine to box jump landing. Coming back into the hip there. Going all the way around the course. Tons of different variations.
Taking that 450 tabletop you saw is a little unconventionally tabled in the opposite direction, and great style on that tail whip. You saw him just floating out to the side of his bike right there, waiting for his frame to come around and stomp his feet cleanly on the pedals. Cam Peak looking to maybe get technical. There's a foot jam. You see again another rider utilizing it, similar to Camacho, balancing on that front wheel, going in the opposite direction. So Cam up here is putting down his first run. We're going to look at some of the madness. That was a truck driver to tabletop 360 bar spin and just laying the bike over, putting 3 tricks in one. There's that tail whip. I love the way his feet just dangled out and smoothly stomped 2 pedals. So if you see on your screen heat number 2, Marin Rantesh, that means we're going back to the top of heat 2. We've got 6 heats. This is our second heat, taking their second run. Again, it is an overall impression, and Marin looking to make a great one with our judges, where you can see Rantesh looking back over the hip. Brian, we were talking about on our 2017 FISE World Series, really coming into his own. Marin's been putting a lot of time on his bike. He's overcome some injuries, but there seems to be that period in a rider's career where they start to really find their own style. They start to find themselves on the bike, and I feel that Marin, always a very technical and very great rider, but I feel like we're going to really start to hear his own voice come out through his riding, which we have this season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Beautiful back flip tail up there. I mean, when we first started watching Marin compete, he's a very young individual and was just coming out with these massive banger tricks like that flare tail whip on the small quarter pipe. And he was able to execute this stuff on incredible features, but now he's really kind of finding his fluidity in different line selection through the course, and you can really notice kind of a different confidence and an overall different personality that he has out there on the bike. It's going to be really impressive to see how he progresses as the years go on in his career.
Yeah, very excited to watch and progress all of our riders. I mean, the cool thing about the FISE World Series, it's an open platform for amateurs, then also for pros to get their footing within the ranks, and then move on to an event like our semifinal here. But the big show is going to be our finals, and all of our riders want to be in that big show that's going to be taking place tomorrow. And looking for his second opportunity, this is Jonathan Camacho. Again, it is an overall impression. I got to tell you, Ryan, there is a lot of height and style right there. Camacho getting completely sideways.
Jonathan has stepped up his riding game, I tell you, since the first time I have seen him ride. Beautiful double tail up as well there. 270 bar spin. Going back with some big amplitude and hauling. Backflip double tail whip. Man has been out there practicing those tricks. Camacho on fire out here for his second run.
Yeah, Camacho definitely been putting the time in on the bike, you can tell, and it is hopefully going to pay off with his score. 10 seconds, crucial. As the clock goes tick-tock, tick-tock, Camacho, a flare. There's a foot jam. And his final moment, going the opposite direction.
Wow, and stomping it all the way to the bottom of the transition. Not phasing him at all, though. An amazing second run from Camacho.
Now, Ryan, you know as a fellow rider, if somebody does something in the opposite direction, that is actually a completely different trick. You have to learn it. It's not like, oh, you know what, you can do a, let's say, bar spin and you're going to do a double bar spin. It's literally the entire movement or motion to go in opposite direction. I guess if we were going to compare it to an average activity, if you throw a ball with your opposite hand, it feels completely different out there. So Camacho at the big move at the end, that was that opposite flare.
Paul Tulin dropping in hit for his second run, keeping it fast and low so he can get the distance on that wall ride, coming back with huge amplitude on that no-look backflip tuck no-hander there.
Yeah, I love to see how close his head was to his tire right there. I know a lot of our riders, when you first start riding, maybe some more of our old school guys, a visor grinder used to be one of those tricks. I know that Paul does not have a visor on his Red Bull helmet, but his head was so close to that front wheel, he could have easily buzzed that thing off right there. Great use of the hips. You see the backflip after he's set up. Bar spin coming up. Now this is where Paul will usually excel if he's able to really build that momentum without taking a lot of pedals. Foot jam fakie. Oh, looking for that clean 180 coming into the waterfall. That's what we talked about, wanting to build that speed and momentum with doing a technical trick. You saw he got tangled up in his bicycle. Thankfully he's okay, but he did a little bit of a stage dive when he went for that revert coming out. Foot plant fakie, getting tangled up. 2 for 2 right there. That was after the buzzer. I doubt that would have counted. You can see Paul, he's charged up right there on adrenaline. There we're talking about that potential visor grinder. I think his head was actually next to his front wheel. Try getting in that position when you're jumping a box jump straight with the no-hander, let alone a backflip taking the wings off.
As you see the beautiful panoramics out here in the park of Chengdu. A big shout out to the city of Chengdu for welcoming us back for the 4th time out here in China. Cam Peak starting it off again, a competitor who's been out here as well from the start. 360 bar spin to tail whip down the spine.
Very cool use of that feature, going up with the 360 triple bar spin and then switching things up coming down. Even though that's hitting a similar feature in either direction, it's going to feel so different. One way you have a 12-foot tall takeoff, the other way you have a 12-foot tall landing. That is something that is very high and very hard to do. Peak right now hanging up a little bit on his speed. So a rider, 60 seconds, a long time to be out there. The adrenaline, the nerves, the excitement. You only have 2 runs. You traveled halfway across the planet to throw down. You've got a lot going on mentally and physically, and if a rider winds up losing that momentum by, it's called hanging up when you land at the top of the ramp or landing flat bottom, the speed could be zonked and your energy could just get pulled right from you. But if you're able to keep your breathing pattern good, land high on the ramps, keep it chill, keep it calm, keep it cool and collected like Cam did in the beginning part of his run, it could definitely favor well in terms of a score. So that wraps up heat number 2. We're looking at our FISE course here in Chengdu as our 5 judges: Dave Kleeworth, Igor Vukadinovic, Romilad Nore, Marcus Wilk, Van Homan are all going to make sense of our riders out there. We've got our head delegate from the UCI, Bart de Jong, who is making sure that all of our riding competition is up to the speed and standards of a world-class event as we move towards the Olympics, making sure that the riders are properly represented, making sure that the course, all the conditions are right, and also making sure that the judges, and we have as level playing field as potentially could be possible in an event like freestyle, where you do have that free spirit and all those elements that come in.
So there you see all our judges panels collecting all their scores to make sure they have everything perfectly in place. We're going to have to see how they're going to reveal heat number 2. Right now, let's take a look back and see some of our highlights from heat number 2 out here in the semifinals. See a beautiful flare tail whip out there from our rider all the way from Ecuador. He's definitely stepped up his game. Paul Tulin as well, the young German rider. Cam Peak, a huge jam-packed session going on here in heat number 2. But the question is, are any of these 4 riders going to be able to rival the 78 score set by Declan Brooks in heat number 1. As we said, Declan had a phenomenal first run as he came out swinging and touching on some of those points you were talking about previously for Cam Peake's run, keeping the speed, topping of the transitions, having perfect amplitude and just holding it the whole way through. He showcased the ability to just transfer all of that into your own creativity and show such diversity within the run. This is why he is currently setting the bar up at the top notch. 78 is where he was sitting, or where he is sitting right now, and we're going to have to see what the judges say for heat number 2. I believe the scores are just going to come in, and Marin Rantes is going to be bumping himself up into the top seed, 88 even. Cam Peake following him with an 83.4, and Jonathan Camacho with a 79.60, bumping out Declan Brooks into 4th position. Respectively, Paul Tulin finishing up the heat number 2 there. He is going to be sitting in 8th position.
So we are seeing the pack starting to get shaken up as our top riders of heat number 2 find their footing amongst the leaderboards. But we are keeping things rolling in our 3rd heat. One of the most celebrated riders all the way from Australia. We're talking about a several times X Games gold medalist. This is the one, the only Kyle Baldock. Backflip tail whip. Baldock starting things out, going flare. I believe that was in his opposite direction on top of the elevated quarter pipe. Baldock keeping things elevated and now transferring out. Bar spin. Whoa! Baldock with a 720 tail whip. You saw the way he penciled his body in to increase the rotation. The tighter you pull your body, the quicker the spin goes. Baldock showing you how comfortable he is in the air. Able to just find his footing, and there was the windshield wiper, the 360 tail whip to downside tail whip. Shout out to one of our qualifiers, Alessandro Barbero, the first rider from Italy to ever pull that trick in a competition. Alessandro unfortunately did not qualify. It just goes to show you the level of riding out here in FISE. And Baldock going for that flare transfer front flip version, known as the lawn dart, falling with 10 seconds left, no hander, not enough time to really make something happen on that clock.
Oh, there he goes. Redemption is key. Try it again. Perfect.
The one thing, though, I don't know, it's going to be up to the judges if that was after the buzzer or not. He hit that on her hip just prior when I believe the buzzer might have went off. That is going to be in their hands. But let's look at some of the madness from the Australian. That was that opposite flare. Again, going the opposite direction. Things are much harder. There was that off-axis-ish, I'm going to say, 720, because he penciled his body with the tail whip to get all the way around very smooth to that landing. So Baldock starting things off here in our 3rd heat. But we are going to travel to the other side of the planet. We're talking about Costa Rica for one of our favorites on the FISE World Series. We've got our man who's showing the heart out there. We're showing the man known as Kenneth Tencio. All eyes are on Kenneth.
Like usual. Whoa! Definitely threading the needle after doing that backflip drop in. Tencio is always a man to have these crazy starts to all of his runs out here on the FISE. It's definitely something that showcases his originality within his contest riding. Tencio, massive flare whip.
Tencio keeping things rolling right there. You see that rotation with the whip, setting up for the box jump. What's it going to be? Oh, just letting things fly right there. Tencio looking for that variation. I believe that was a 360 bar spin. Potentially looking for the downside tail whip. Did not have the speed or momentum to get over the box. Kind of pushing through the lip to get the distance. It might have set him up a little bit funky, and that's why he had to wind up throwing it. Tencio falling pretty hard, but he's able to get back on the bike. Tencio right now, I think this is just going to be, all right, Tencio's just going to get kind of locked and loaded for his 2nd run up here on top of the sub box. But let's look at the way he started out. There was the backflip walking the line right there, almost going off the course. There's a flare tail whip coming around. So Tencio is going to have to take his 2nd run. But right now we've got Mr. Jake Walworth, another rider from Australia. That is not Jake. That is none other than Nick Bruce up there, who's going to be our next rider after Jake. So we're going to see if Jake is in the competition or not. Sometimes in practice some things can happen, but there we go. There is Jake, another sleeveless rider out there, showing off the guns and also some pretty cool artwork on each one of his wings. Let's see, Jake dropping in, 60 seconds starts now. Transfer, bar spin. Again, the riders can pick wherever they want to start, and that's cool that Jake got the party started with a transfer up, transfer in tabletop, transfer out, turn down. So we are seeing Jake definitely putting the lines together on this unique one-of-a-kind course just for Chengdu. Whoa!
Oh, front flip, tail whip from wall work. Beautiful look back on the hip as well. That is one of the most difficult tricks to do. And going with the front flip flare, adding a tuck no-hander.
That is something that we have not seen on our World Series tour, that we've taken both limbs off as you're going over the handlebars so hard because your weight is over the bike. There's a backflip. You see him hanging up a little bit, getting winded as the clock starts counting down. And I believe that this might be time right here for Jake. That is clearly after the buzzer, throwing a flare to flat. So again, the judges want to see a rider really coming to the end of their run with a lot of confidence, a lot of direction of where they are, maybe as opposed to being a little bit lost and winded, doing a trick like that, a flare to flat. But Jake's riding, really impressive, had a lot of big standouts. Let's take a look. 360 downside tail whip. That was after the transfer up. Here is the front flip tail whip. So wild. Landed with one foot off, but he kept it rolling in enough speed to do that no-handed front flip flare. So here we go. This is the big man. This is the big brawler from Ohio. This is the man known as Nick Bruce. Talk about an athlete. Nick puts as much energy as he does off of his bike, training for competitions, as he does on his bike. Youngstown, Ohio is where he calls home. 360 invert right there, completely peeling off to the side of his bike.
Beautiful snapped and clicked execution of that invert trick, but as well, Bruce going for that big transfer, starting off from the honor quarter pipe into the TSG, going around the honor wall there, going for that huge wall transfer.
Yes, first rider we saw utilize our wall ride. That is cool. Again, this course is designed specifically for this event. We have a couple of features out here that are uncommon or uncharacteristic at a FISE World Series stop. The one being that wall ride, the other being our honor capsule. Nick Bruce, front flip.
Really taking that kind of lawn dart approach into that front flip. Wow, and then another front flip flare, but with the tail whip this time. Each rider in this third heat keeps one-upping the next.
So Nick Bruce in 2016 was our third place overall in our final. Currently going into our final now in 2017, Nick Bruce is sitting in 9th in our overall point race with 13,600 points. Nick really wanting to move up, and if a rider makes it to the finals, again, there's only 12 riders. They are going to be awarded the majority of points, and when you have such a close competition like this, those points are going to be so crucial in the final. So we're going back to the top of the party. The Australian Kyle Baldock dropping things off.
Whoa!
720 tail whip, so difficult to do. The deck of that ramp is so short. The increased difficulty as opposed to the box jump where you're not traveling as far. You almost have 8 times the amount of distance over the box jump as opposed to the spine. Oh, and Baldock just losing control. Looked like he was going for a crazy variation tail whip. I don't know if he was maybe going for a 720 double tail whip.
It looked like he was maybe going for another rotation after he caught the pedals there, but definitely did not have the amplitude for that.
I'd love to see what happened, but just on a first glance, it looked like maybe he didn't get his weight properly on that tail whip takeoff, where he wound up spinning the bike And almost where he could have done a triple tail whip, but his body didn't have that rotation, the second one, to go for a 720. That could have been because he didn't set up 100% on the quarter pipe, but this was huge. There's that 720 with the tail whip in there. We talked about his body kind of penciling out to get that second rotation coming around, and he really set up with a perfect execution on that spine with a big snowplow, 12-foot tall landing. So we see our Costa Rican rider up on that big sub box after his first run. He wound up popping up there, positioning himself. This is definitely a signature for Tencio. Generally speaking, he pays homage to the late, great Dave Mirra, and if he does a backflip off the sub box, that is how you do it. To one of the greatest who ever did it in BMX, because Dave Mirra was the first rider to ever backflip off, and Tencio right now showing you that he can be consistent with a trick that once people thought was impossible. Yes.
Like you said, so many of these, just looping out, going very difficult the back way over that box jump and doing kind of an underflip there. But like you said,
so Tencio trying to just utilize back on it. It's never easy if a rider crashes to wind up picking up the pieces, and Tencio putting the puzzle back together with that flare bar spin. I believe he grabbed the seat and threw that tail whip around right there, just guiding the frame with his hand as opposed to kicking it with his bike. Tencio landed a little flat, washing out. So Tencio having some difficulties, but we are going to see a full picture as our scores start coming in. And you know what, Ryan, we saw a lot of consistency in our first heat. In our third heat, our riders are having some difficulties out here. And that could mean because the guys know, hey, you know what? The first heats, the heat is on, right? Pun intended. But we're talking about a lot of riding and spice being thrown in there. So riders are saying, you know what? I can't rest on my laurels. I have to throw down hard tricks. I can't kind of sleep through the semifinal like maybe I would of other competitions in the past. We had over 80 riders out here. They're looking to bring their A game, and when you do that with the harder tricks, the increase of potential disaster to happen or things to go wrong can go up, and maybe that's why we're seeing some riders have some difficulty.
Whoa! Front flip bar spin to tuck no hander from Jake Walworth, coming out guns blazing, like you said. Really have to set the bar up and going for that beautiful front flip flare. Absolutely amazing how he is able to get that rotation around. He hardly moves a millimeter from takeoff to landing on the quarter pipe there. Going for the transfer back up and into the edge. Oh man. Going down and catching a bit of the side of his face on the bottom of the landing there. Jake hopefully okay from that. Going into a flare, trying to regain his composure. He just had a little hang up on that. Super unfortunate to throw off his whole entire game. It really mentally screws up an athlete as they're coming through, and in a very easy section of their run have some little bobble that they're completely unanticipating.
So we're taking a look. There's that front flip bar spin to no-hander. That was one of the most difficult tricks that we've seen, putting so many links together. Jake right here doing a 540 well below, coping that is the circle and a half, getting things around. So unfortunately, Jake having some difficulties. But right now, in 2016, as I mentioned, he was our third overall. So he did get podium. Looking to up the ante. He currently is 9th overall. And right now, Nick Bruce dropping in.
Nice backflip over that spine jump. Bruce coming for a transfer there from the spine to the box jump.
Yeah, first rider we saw do that, but very delicately kicking the back end around. Wow, Nick Bruce going up, down, and around. That was a backflip 360, very traditional. There you go, wall ride again. You saw that he almost walked the line on that little lip that we have there. There's some coping about 4 feet up on that wall ride. Nick Bruce almost getting his tires caught, but almost is definitely the key word because Nick Bruce rolling things along with 12 seconds to go. Bruce double downside 360 whip.
Does that trick. Just really kind of just hangs there and lets the frame roll around for another rotation on that downside whip. Huge round of applause for Nick Bruce, and that's going to do it for our third heat out here in the semifinals.
So you see on deck, again, that is our commentator in field, Catfish, getting the crowd all hyped up. You can see a big hug and a cool moment right there. Both of those boys are from Ohio. There used to be a skate park out there called Section 8, which shout out to Joe Cupp. He's actually going to come visit in New York next week. But these boys definitely got their start in the BMX scene out in Youngstown, Ohio. So Catfish always being a big brother to the scene out there. And it's so cool that all these years later, Nick Bruce is one of the best riders in the world. Catfish being one of the best MCs, also personalities. And you're seeing that cool moment. But right there, those are the 5 judges. If smoke is coming off the top of their head, that is because they have to make sense of the craziness. We got Van Homan out there giving a little bit of a wave. And they have to make sense of the 48 runs. Who is going to sit where? So much focus takes to really make sense of the madness and see which one of the top 12 are going to be in the pack.
Let's take a look back and see some of the top tricks busted out here in the number 3 heat of 6 for the semifinals. Tencio with that first backflip into the drop in there. Beautiful 360. And check out that front flip tail whip, just slipping the pedals, unfortunate. So some beautiful riding from all our 4 competitors out here in the 3rd heat. Look at that one as well. Front flip, bar spin to tuck no-hander. Jake Walworth was actually on fire there, and Nick Bruce, as you see, some beautiful 3 highlights finishing off. Those riders are going to have to see if what they did in this round is going to be able to rival now the top score of what is Marin Rantis's 88 from his Heat 2. That's a very high score. We're going to have to see if the judges are going to award any of the Heat 3 riders to push out Marin Rantis from that top spot. He's sitting just above Cam Peak, who is currently with an 83.4, and Jonathan Camacho with a 79.6 respectively.
You see Catfish out there loving it up. Catfish, you were made for this. Hyping the crowd up. Definitely a signature at any FISE World Series. Catfish on the mic, hyping our crowd up. But right now, hopefully hype the riders up enough to get a higher score than an 88, as you said, currently being held by our Croatian rider, Marin Rantis. As we're looking at our one-of-a-kind course, scores coming in, and look at that, Nick Bruce with an 84.60, so it's not enough to bump Marin Rantis out with that 88. We then see further down the pack, Jake Walworth with a 64.40, Kenneth Tencio with a 54.80, and Kyle Baldock with a 53.80. So what that means is that we have 12 riders down, 12 have yet to go. We are taking top 12 into the finals. So if you are sitting in the top spots like Marin Rantis, Nick Bruce, or Cam Peak, you are saying, hey, I've got a little bit of breathing room, but we still had 12 of the world's best riders, our best qualifiers, and our top finishers who have yet to take the course.
A man who knows how to do it in all aspects of BMX, Kosta Andreev, starting off with some big combinations. He's known for these huge combinations, kind of able to spin the bars on just an impulsive thought. He has some absolutely amazing combinations that are mind-boggling. And check out the amplitude and distance as he has coming around the course.
Yeah, Brian, we talked about the Russian invasion. Kostya, definitely one of the guys from Russia who have been leading the charge. Right there, you saw he transferred that white coping on top. That's actually a metal pipe. You saw that his back tire landed on that. He wound up sliding out. His feet came off the pedals, but it wasn't enough to, thankfully, have him completely fall, able to put his feet back on, keep her rolling. and utilizing the final 7 seconds here. Bar spin 450. Kostya sometimes gets tech at the buzzer. Buzzer going off, 270 flying up. And that will do it for the Russian, Kostya Andreev. So when there is a difficulty like that and a rider gets thrown for a loop, obviously points will be deducted, but we also have seen in years past that is an opportunity for a rider to also let his bike control shine. If a rider goes down and gets back on, very impressive, and can find his awareness of his surroundings, the judges are not going to potentially take as many points off. So our next rider, a guy who's definitely made a name for himself, we're going to specifically talk about in Montpellier, blasting our spine ramp. This is none other than Jose Torres-Gil.
Ooh, nice little transition that we actually haven't seen, going from the little corner of the small quarters all the way up to the top of that large spine.
The Argentinian being cheered on by all of his BMX family down in Argentina as Gil is hitting the pop button, going up nice and high, throwing the bars in as he spins around. I was so impressed with the Gil out in Montpellier, the height that this man can blast on any quarter pipe. There you go, over the spine to the moon. I'm going to say unofficially that was one of the higher airs that we've seen over the spine. Taking the words from my mouth, and he's just soaring to the skies. The Gil, as I am going to call him, ripping things apart here. Wall ride the tail whip. Foot jam, can. And that is going to wrap it up. The Gil out there letting things rip. Again, just a rider who's really moved up the ranks here on our FISE World Series, out in one of the bigger platforms of competition history in Montpellier, where we have over 500,000 fans coming out. Such a work of art, the competition set in front of the town hall. And Mr. Jose Torres-Gil really put it on.
Let's talk about a rider who we didn't speak too much about his best trick, but is that even considered a world first, you think?
You know what? The Russian has so many. He's really been pioneered a lot of jumping and combinations. It's so hard to say what's a world's first these days. Some guys will post up in a foam pit in some part of the planet. I know that that doesn't constitute as it. Other guys are then maybe taking that to a mulch pile. Who knows? Some people to a quarter pipe. But guys like Yurik Raizev have the confidence and also the ability to put it on when it counts at a competition. So right now, the Russian transferring down. You see him using some body English right there.
Whew. Beautiful alley-oop 360 tail whip to invert there. If you guys are unfamiliar with what we were talking about the best trick set from Yurik Raizev with the 360 tail whip to bar spin to downside tail whip, opposite way back. Beautiful 720 there. So we are interested to see how it's going to play out for the finals. Let's see if some of the Russians are able to do those amazing combination tricks that we thought completely unthinkable and unfathomable before we see them do it in these FISE contests.
So Yurik right now coming into our final, sitting in 7th place as he got a 3rd in Budapest and a 14th in Edmonton. Looking to move up the ranking score. You see him on deck right there, giving a pound to our next rider from the US of A, Ricky Veronique. You see any Woodward stickers on a rider's helmet, you know that that means they spend time. I believe that was Tahoe and also West. Shout out to Steve Swope. Oh, cash roll! Originally invented by Daniel Dhers, perfected by Brett Benisewicz. And right now, Ricky Veronique giving his spin. Such a weird trick. Unique one, bar spin, front flip right there, throwing the handlebars. Ryan, we know that's difficult because when a rider does a front flip, your weight's in a position that it's hard to spin the handlebars. It's easy to hit your knees on the bars, but Ricky right there just wrapping them around very smooth. Ricky on the elevated portion of the course. You see down that waterfall, keeping it flowing. Yes, great combo.
Coming back there.
Surprised by that bar spin. I got to tell you, there was not a lot of hang time on that transfer, but just kept it very consistent. There was an opposite bar spin.
Yeah, and a backflip, or a bar spin flare, pardon me, coming out on that last quarter right at the buzzer.
So Ricky right there. There's that cash roll. You can see it's such an unconventional trick when you come off the lip right there. You wind up spinning almost a 180, doing a flip, and then spinning a 180 around. We can see so many different variations of that, especially if a guy's in a flat spin. One of those wild tricks that are in between usually leaves you saying, what did I just witness? Right now, the Russian back to the top. Heat number 4 of 6, Kostya Andreev. Locked and loaded, the Red Bull rider. Staring down the barrel of a gun. Choosing to be on top of the waterfall. Smooth so far with 2 hits. Kostya currently sitting 5th for our overall points race. Got a well-deserved 2nd in Montpellier, a 9th in Budapest, and did not fare as well in Edmonton with a 13th. Consistency is the name of the game, though. He wound up being close to that top of the podium in Montpellier. That means he's got the goods.
Kostya setting up right here for 50 tail whip. Coming back to the spine.
He's picked a no-hander. Great extension. Wow, that was a picture-perfect no-hander. You're coming from a lip trick where you're balancing on the back peg. That is why it's called an ice pick. You do not have a lot of time when you're falling down. It is so minimal, but Kostya getting picture-perfect extension. Backflip bar spin wrapping around. Here we go, flare, tail whip. And again, very unique combo, that ice pick to tuck no-hander.
Coming back up to Jose. He's gonna drop in all the way out here in China from Argentina.
The gill. Yeah.
360 double tail whip. Check out how fast he flies around that honor wall.
I got to tell you, for all intensive purposes, and I'm going to say selfish purposes, I want to see the gill blast a quarter pipe or that spine ramp again. Unofficially, the highest air that we've seen so far of the contest. Not an easy thing to say in our UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup men's semifinal. But having the unofficial highest air halfway through the pack is an accomplishment with all its own. You see him going the opposite direction through our honor capsule. Nose bonk 360. The brakeless rider showing you that he's got some tech abilities as well, taking his foot off, going dark side with his peg. Touching the foot down there, I don't think that was intentional. Just trying to put a couple points on as he's winded, saying, you know what, I got some tech tricks too. And that is going to be time for the gill.
Check out some highlights here from the second run of Jose. Big transfer all the way over with that double tail whip. Going for that G-turn.
You know what? On second thought, I think he actually might have been trying to put his foot down right there. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out on that. Looked good either way. I take it from my house. So that was the gill throwing down his second run. That means the Russian, as you mentioned, the best trick winner out in Budapest. Waving to the crowd, dropping in from our sub box into the quarter pipe, over the box. What's it going to be?
360 double tail whip to bar spin. Huge look back, clicking it.
Can we just break that down for a minute? You know how crazy that is? We just saw a 360 double tail whip to bar spin. First trick in his run.
Yeah, and it looked like just a 360 tail whip. Like, that's how easy
mind-boggling?
he does it. It's absolutely amazing what, especially the Russian riders,
I mean,
are
these
coming
were
out
video
with.
game tricks not too long ago. What I mean by that is these were impossible. Look at the height right there, floating backwards. You just see blind faith falling back onto the box jump landing. Jurek going the opposite direction with that bar spin around our honor capsule with 10 seconds to go. Come on, Jurek, dig deep. As we mentioned earlier, he's currently sitting in 7th in our overall points ranking. Cool style right there. 360 with a nice little fishtail, almost a jammin' salmon.
Yeah, big smiles. Doing it as well out there for Dirt Masters. Beautiful action sports enthusiasts doing big shows around the world. But talking about action sports, you have to mention the FISE. It's 20 years long that the FISE has been going, the largest action sports contest and festival in history. Started off in Montpellier, France, and we are now on a 4-stop World Series. This is the last stop of 4, ending here in China. Ricky Veronique about to drop in for his second run here.
The USA rider going up, going down. What do we got? Boom! A front flip. So off axis and sideways. It almost looked like he did a rotation spin, but just doing some type of shifty out there on that front flip. So cool. Ricky coming in, backflip, tail whip to bar spin. I do not know how he was able to keep it together, but that is how you ride at the semifinal, defying odds. Backflip, tail whip to bar spin, last moments, last thoughts. We could see from our perspective, he actually disappeared out of sight on that landing. Popping up much like a surfer out of they come out of the barrel right there. Ricky's still rolling with 10 seconds. What?
Whoa! Talk about unique tricks. Going up with tons of speed still onto the box jump, but keeping it low so he touches on the flat top and then popping and snapping that huge front flip to flat.
Wow, so Ricky throwing down. We're going to take this opportunity to look at a slow motion of the front flip coming around. So crazy right there. It was basically a bunny hop front flip coming on down. Our judges are going to make sense of the madness. Our next heat of riders are going to take the course, but I'm going to use this opportunity to give a little bit of shine time to one of our sponsors. One of the coolest things, again, going in action sports, that's right, I'm talking about the Worm app. You guys can download the app for a true interactive experience. The way it works, riders, athletes, yourself upload content, and you get a chance to look at different footage that's up there. But the thing that separates app from everyone else, you can slow-mo the content as much as you'd like, utilizing your fingers on the screen. It's so cool, it's so fun. As being a lifelong rider, also getting my start in video, it's mind-boggling that you can really be this interactive and slow down footage like this. It's so cool. So all the tricks that you might go, he did what? How did he do that? You could wind up slowing it down and really taking a look. It's so simple. You just go to the App Store and you download the Worm app. So we're going to keep it up with slow motion right now. We're going to look at some of the highlights from our heat number 4 as we look at Jurek Ryzev 720 around the box. Here is a look at that cash roll out of Mr. Ricky Veronique. Kostya Andreev with that flare, semi-flat spin style. There you go, another one with the tail whip. There is a double tail whip transfer. I love the style. And then boom, the gill right there, my man, stomping it down very clean. And there was that front flip. That was, to me, one of the highlights of the heat right there. Ryan, completely off axis, sideways. And there was the recap. The wrap-up of heat number 4, that front flip. Well, our scores are going to come in from our judges, but if you're just joining us, you are in the hot seat because we have 8 riders yet to go. These are our top qualifiers, also our top 5 finishers from our last stop in Edmonton, Canada, and also our 2016 FISE World Series champion, who we have yet to see the course, none other than Logan Martin. So things are going to wind up heating up big time. But in the meantime, we're going to take a look at Brandon Lupos and all of his runs throughout the entire World Series. The reason why he is currently sitting in second place in our overall point series. He is the closest rider to your current leader of points, Daniel Dhers.
There you're seeing Lupos in Budapest as he came out blazing, one of the only riders who was willing to ride in the wind conditions and kind of showed the other riders, hey, it is possible. He's like, you know, I traveled all this way. I want to put on a show for all the sports enthusiasts out here, and as well dominating once again in the wind conditions in Edmonton. So let's see how Lupos is going to push through out here in China, but a rider who always has his game face on it, always a smile on his face. I think that is a huge advantage that he has throughout his riding. He's just always such a character and wanting to put on the best show that he possibly can for the audience and for all the sports enthusiasts watching the BMX show. We had talked about it previously in the show. We're speaking about one of the most incredible best tricks that we saw out here. I mean, personally, it's the two Russians that have done the best tricks for me this year. It was in Montpellier by Kostya Andreev, where I believe he did the cannonball to tail whip.
Wait, whoa, hold on. There's so much going on. Throw a bar spin in there.
Oh,
He did a cannonball.
yeah.
So hold on, let's break that down, right?
Bar spin cannonball.
A cannonball, you're taking everything off your bike, grabbing the seat, throwing the handlebars, and then you're throwing a tail whip in there.
Yeah, and then he caught the handlebar and threw the seat, I believe, into a tail whip. But now, speaking about the other
I'm
Russian...
laughing because it's insane. It is seriously crazy.
It's absolutely insane. But now moving forward then to Budapest for the other Russian rider, that is Irek Razev. Let's take a look back. I believe we have a highlight coming up of his best trick from Budapest. Either that or we are going to be going to scores here from heat number 4. Let's see how the judges put these riders up against the rest.
Whoa, Martin Rantesh still holding strong with an 88. That is the score to beat. But Irek Razev, 84.10. Then we've got Ricky Varanek with an 80.40. Kostya Andreev with the 79. And we have Jose Torres-Gil with the 70.20 in 12th. So what that means is on the bubble, Jose Torres-Gil would technically be the last rider to make it in the pack if the last 8 riders who have yet to take the course all mess up and their score is below his, which is a 70.20. So what that means for our next riders, the score to beat is a 70.2 and higher. So right now, Brandon Lupos, we just witnessed his highlight runs. Again, he is currently sitting in second place overall coming into our final. He won first in Budapest. He's got the goods. He knows what it takes, and let's see if he could charge out here in Chengdu, China.
One thing to note from this run of Brandon, he isn't only tricking absolutely every jump and obstacle that he hits, but he's doing bangers off them. Not just small tricks, but massive ones that are scoring high with the judges, and that's why he's sitting so far down there in the 5th heat. He is... And as well, why he has been able to do so good at the other events. However, unfortunately, having a bobble, messing up the flow in his run, but coming back and answering with that 540 flare.
That's what we talked about. If a rider winds up messing up, if they can come back with confidence, with bike control, sometimes it might not hurt them as bad. Obviously, the judges know that old-time saying, it happens out there, but he wound up messing up a little bit and came back charging with that very unique rotation on the quarter pipe. But Lupos, definitely looking for the consistency. He is the only rider who potentially is closest to Daniel Dhers, who's sitting in the points. You see Lupos a little bit frustrated right now. He wants to be in there. He knows how important it is for him to make the finals, and it's going to take perfection to get in there. There's a 540 bar spin. But if you are Daniel Dhers right now, our current points leader, and you see Brandon Lupos, who had a mess up, not that you want anybody to mess up on the course, but you're saying, you know what, if he doesn't make it to the finals, I might be sitting a little bit prettier if I make it in there, right? Because this is a world-level competition, and you want to see where you're going to sit as you go in. But we're keeping it rolling. Heat number 5, the Southern California rider, one of the biggest smiles on his face. He is 2 times a dad with one of the coolest backyards in BMX. Just has a fresh YouTube channel that you can catch out that follows his entire BMX family. This is none other than Pat Casey.
Like we were saying, Lupos is watching Daniel Dhers and the other riders because we have a huge there. Casey going for that beautiful transfer as well, dubbed from, I believe, Declan Brooks in his first run. Like you said, Pat Casey training every day in his beautiful backyard, dubbed one of the most amazing backyards in action sports history.
Casey right now riding like a man possessed, currently sitting 8th overall in points. Casey said, you know what, if I'm going to be away from my family and come all the way out to China, I'm going to bring my A game, and it is showing out here. The Mongoose and Monster rider repping for Fox as well. It just really annihilating this course. Casey's a rider with a free coaster. What that means is he could coast backwards and not have his cranks engaged. Sometimes at the end of his run, he'll utilize some of that ability. Looks like he's not going to be putting that to use in his front run-up. I stand corrected. You saw he landed backwards and had a quick little revert coming out. It was after the buzzer, may or may not count. That is for our judges to call and to decide. But Casey putting down a big run right there. Look at the tail whip transfer, going the distance right there. Cash roll, you see his back tire just scraping, almost scrubbing across the lip. Able to get that 360 with a backflip going in. Over the spine, landing fakie, utilizing that free coaster. So Casey, our second rider, getting it done. Freshly off a X Games gold medal in a BMX dirt. Happened earlier this year in Minneapolis. We're going to talk about our next rider on top of that sub box. That's right, you know him as Colton Walker, Mr. Gold Medal himself. Having a tremendous couple years, won some of the Nitro Circus Games competitions, and right now looking to step up his game from 2016, where he was in 4th overall at our FISE World Series. Colton Walker currently sitting 11th in points.
Yeah, as well utilizing that wall ride. That wall ride is very intimidating actually for the riders. It's built out of plexiglass, so the slight little bit of condensation will mean that the riders are basically sliding out on it. As well, it has that additional coping in the middle, very difficult features.
One of our women riders, Nina Butrago, in qualifying, she actually slid out on the wall. Like you said, there's a little condensation on there, but it's very cool to see Colton Walker, and also I believe it was Nick Bruce who utilized the wall ride.
So unturned down, coming back around the course, 450 bar spin.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Last thoughts, finishing off there with a double bar spin.
So Walker right here. You know, it's got to be a good feeling. You come all the way out, you know there's so much pressure. They didn't ride in the qualifier yesterday. You don't have a chance to get those cobwebs off. And what I'm talking about is maybe even some stress, some anxiety, some nerves. I mean, you flew all the way across the planet. You're jet lagged. You've got thousands of fans that come out here. Everyone's cheering you on. And it's a nice feeling to get that run out of the way. And then all of a sudden you go, cool, what do I want to do on my second run? You kind of shake it off a little bit and get in your zone. But it's a great feeling when a rider cruises along. Well, our next rider, he got 5th overall in 2016. Currently, as we roll into our finals, he is sitting 12th. The man who does things on his own way, on his own plan, Jack Clark, the JC.
Whoa.
Boom!
One of our favorite riders to watch, at least one of my favorite riders to watch out here on the tour.
Hey, I'm going to say our favorite riders, okay?
One of our favorite riders because of style like this. Oh, and look at that 360 double tail whip, but man, that's one of my highlight tricks from the entire contest. That invert that he threw in there. We'll take a look back at the highlights from that one. Jack Clark flowing around here, representing Essex. Going for a little toothpick back in on that spine.
Yeah, Clark just kind of put him together. Again, Clark, the reason why he's on top of the podiums usually, not only for that style, but he's got the hot hands when it comes to bar spins. You can just throw him in so easily, but he doesn't rest on that. He also can get super tech. There you go. You see him popping that 540 alley-oop. Also, sometimes will do super tech tricks with his pegs, specifically his front peg, where a lot of riders don't get as technical, where you have to put that weight over the handlebars. Jack is psyched. I am psyched, especially looking at that invert upside down transfer tabletop 360. I don't even want to call it a tabletop 360. I mean, that was somewhere in between a flip, a barrel roll. It was rad. Yeah. That was Jack Clark getting rad. Let's just call it that. Jack Clark, you rule. So we're going back to the top, Heat 5, the man with a lot of pressure right now. Let's see if he can deliver. Brandon Lupos, you can see the focus. You know that he's got to get in the run. Lupos doesn't have as much experience in the contest circuit as someone like Daniel Dhers, who could definitely deliver under that pressure. Let's see if Lupos, after being on the tour for 2 years, can he really deliver when it counts? This is what's going to start to separate Lupos from our other riders. But right now, 15 seconds in, I got to tell you, Ryan, he's looking solid.
Yeah, Lupos still having a lot of speed coming through course, back into the honor wall. Wow, beautiful 1080, but just not being able to hold on. And oh, Lupos is devastated after that one. He knows that this could have completely ruined his chances of making it into the finals tomorrow. And that was really what he was needing to push through into the overall rankings. Lupos still coming back with that 540 on the quarter pipe. But a devastating blow in the second run here.
That is the only way to describe it. Devastating for sure. Lupos, you can tell he is just totally bummed. Look, I know freestyle BMX is definitely something where a lot of riders maybe do independently at their own park. When you're riding at this level and you put so much of your heart, focus, and your entire body, mind, and soul into it, you come here hyper-focused, saying, I traveled around the world, I put my body on the line, and when you wind up falling on a trick like that 1080, you watch out, it could be definitely upsetting. But I got to give you massive props, Brandon Lupos. You are still currently sitting second in our overall point series, going in our semi. And you know what? You did have some big tricks in there, so who knows? Maybe you will qualify. Never count a man out. But a man who has definitely had a great first run is Pat Casey, the Southern California rider. Some uniqueness going on. Casey going wall ride quarter to quarter. There's the tail whip transfer. Casey cranking it.
Stomps back in.
Loving Pat's riding, man. What a unique ball of energy. There is a cash roll. Pat, at 23 years old, is no stranger to the BMX circuit. I believe the first time we saw Pat was at age 14, where he started going on the contest circuit. I think the first competition that I announced Pat at, he was, I don't even know if he had his license yet. And now Pat, we see second time a dad, just a great ambassador for the sport of BMX. Really balances doing his own thing, which you could follow on his YouTube channel, and at the same time has it down wired for contests. So Casey, one of our top qualifiers, wall ride on the sub, dumping over to the side. You can see he's got the smile on his face. He's okay. You know what, though, Pat going down, I don't think that's going to impact his score too negatively. I mean, he had that huge transfer with the tail whip. No one else is really messing with that. He doesn't have brakes on his bike. He came in full speed, and he just let it crank over the hip. When you have a couple banner tricks like that, utilizing key features on the course, those are standout things in the judge's mind. The score for him to beat, again, is going to be that 70.20 by Jose Torres-Gil. So Colton Walker right now, like I said, fresh off an X Games gold medal. So smooth.
Yeah,
Can I just say that that was completely just like very casual, just, hey, I'm going to put 4 tricks together on one box?
Yeah, absolutely amazing actually how he's able to just hold the composure of his body. It looked like he was just floating around in a 360, but actually everything was moving at the same time.
Yeah, I just actually like to highlight how just controlled right now, just calm. This is a semifinal. Colton we're seeing a much more mature Colton Walker this year. We're talking about not even the level of his tricks. He's just so cool, calm, and collected right now. Just really at peace riding. And he's doing some really big tricks out here. Way to go, Colton. I guess maybe after winning that X Games gold medal, you got a few years under your belt. Again, Colton finished in 4th last year. Getting that first run down, we talked about being a really good feeling. He came out just, you know what? Going to be graced under pressure. So Colton with the big second run. Look at this 360 double tail whip and that bar spin.
Wow.
The cool thing about that, not only was his rotation on his 360, his tail whips, and his bar spin, they were all just very smooth and consistent at the same pace. There was no chop in there.
Yeah.
It was just as if you were literally warm butter, warm knife, warm bread. One smooth pull. Well, another smoothie. And I'm going to stand you corrected, our favorite rider to watch in the event. Or I will say one of our favorites, right? We'll say that is Jack Clark.
We love you all, guys. It's fun time coming up. Oh!
But the reason it makes Jack Clark stand out, he does whatever he wants. On his bike, on the course, in practice, hanging out at the hotel. Jack Clark is on his own program. No one's going to tell him what to do. And it shows in his riding. Committed, focused, and a wild man that can just wrangle the tricks together. Clark with the double tail whip. Yeah, downside whip. Let's see if Clark uses some of that tech ability, maybe even some lip tricks. There you go, utilizing that front peg that we talked about. Foot jam over the spine, 10 seconds. The JC, Jack Clark, looking to cut it up, that front peg again. Let's see, do we get any techness out of the final thoughts? Boom, hitting that pop button, throwing it up. Chengdu going nuts right now.
I wasn't sure what that was. Was that like a nose ring, or was that a hang 5 over the last hit there? It was pretty interesting to see, but take a look at some highlights there. That 360 tail with the bar spin, 540 bar spin on the little hip there. Jack Clark really showing some diversity as well within his riding from run 1 to run 2.
So Jack Clark wrapping up heat number 5. Again, our judges, their mind is melting. It is not an easy thing to do. You can see Van Homan trying to tally up some scores. All our judges have an iPad system. They also take pen and paper notes just in case the internet or something goes down. But the judges really have to say, you know what, there's so much on the line here. We also have Bart DeJong, our head delegate from the UCI, who's making sure that everything is just right, the riding, the field, and also all the scores come in properly. But let's take a look at what the judges are trying to make sense of. We're talking about highlights from heat number 5. We got Mr. Lupos right there. There is Pat Casey, that cash roll. So cool the way he's off to the side of his bike. That 180 tail whip, utilizing that free coaster. That was one of the tricks of the competition right there. Jack Clark completely sideways. The fact that he was doing that transfer, it wasn't even like he was backflipping or 360. He just magically peeled his bike and pulled it up under him. There's a look at Casey with another cash roll. The king of consistencies when it comes to the cash roll right now is Casey. I know that is a tongue twister, but try doing a cash roll consistently, and that will leave you very confused. So there we go. Highlights from heat number 5. That means that we have heat number 6 after scores come in. Our top riders from Edmonton, also joined by Logan Martin, who is our defending 2016 champion. You definitely get those honors, but as the scores wind up coming in, the score that they're going to want to beat is definitely that 70.20. But before we do that, why don't we take a look at our current points leader and what it takes to get it done. This is a look at his winning run from Edmonton.
So Daniel Dhers, like we've said many times, he breaks down the criteria that the judges have to roll through and basically dissects what does he have to do on this course to get the top points.
Now, one of the big factors of Daniel getting the top spot out here was he did this transfer that a 360 double tail whip. We're going to see it in just a few moments where he goes from the extended box jump all the way with a 360 double tail whip. Here we go, setting up. Bam! That was the cherry on top of his run because the elements out here, the wind was gusting. Riders didn't even want to drop in. Some were actually saying, you know what, I'm going to bypass my run. Daniel Dhers put his game face on. He's one of our older riders out here on the course, being in his mid-30s, and he's got that experience that winds up taking. So let's see what happens there. Score comes in again. We are taking top 12. We still have 4 riders yet to go. So that means basically our riders sitting in 8th place and up will make it. And here we go. Scores coming in. Jack Clark with an 86.60. Maren Rantish still holding strong with an 88 flat. Colton Walker with an 84.30. So that means that he will be progressing. And the man that is on the bubble, Pat Casey with a 76.40. So I stand corrected. Pat Casey having a little bit of difficulty at the end. But the big story is Brandon Lupos with the 67 flat. I think Ryan used the word devastating to mention how those crashes definitely must have felt for the Australian. Very disappointing that he's not in the finals, seeing how he is currently sitting 2nd place for points going into the finals, and he was the man who was closest to Daniel Dhers in this points race.
Yeah, huge upset. He's had an absolutely amazing season on this World Series, traveling to all the stops with the FISE. But now we are back down to Great Britain. The little bulldog himself, Alex Colborne, gonna drop in for his run, starting off the 6th and final heat for the BMX semifinals.
Yeah, Colborne hitting the tail whip going up, doing it his own way with an off-axis 720 coming down. A Colborne signature move at FISE is to just stack, stack, and stack more tricks in on every single hit. And Colborne is starting off with a very similar move right here. Over the box jump! Yo, I believe that was 3 times around on that 360 for the triple tail whip. Colborne double bar spin of the hip.
Colborne really coming out swinging here. Is that flare bar spin, I believe. Bar spin to foot jam. Way up on that sub.
Yeah, Colborne right here. Let's see, does he take it from a page of his own book? Getting super tech right now. Colborne ice pick to bar spin at 5, 4, 3. Oh! That might have been a make or break moment right there, going for the tail whip to foot jam variation. And what I mean by that is Colborne before has been our top winners in qualifying in our semifinal. I remember years past at Montpellier he did that. And that is very important in case we wind up having any weather conditions for tomorrow. Our semifinal scores would potentially count as a final. But as of now, the skies are looking great in Chengdu, China. As we're looking at some of the highlights from Colborne, there is a bar spin out of that ice pick stall.
There we see our next rider up all the way from the United States of America, none other than Daniel Sandoval.
Sandoval currently sitting 3rd overall in points going to the finals. He is a California local native and rider, specifically from Corona, California. Sandoval definitely has done his time on the FISE World Series. In 2015, he was 2nd place overall finisher. Looking to be up on top of that podium. So if that means that Lupos is out, Sandoval has his highest shot right now of potentially taking Daniel Dhers if Dhers makes the final.
So beautiful flow coming around. Oh, an amazing invert and huge amplitude. Sandoval tossing some of those signature downside whips in the 360 there. Going for the long transfer from hip to hip, clearing the entire wall ride. A little bit of a hang up, but carrying his momentum as he flies around back into the honor quarter pipe. Nice tuck no-hander. Let's see what he has wounding down the last 10 seconds of this run 1.
Yeah, kicking that frame. Sandoval over on her hip. Whoa, yeah, getting that big rotation right there, double tail whip. As Sandoval throws up the #1 finger, you see he's got the headphones on, definitely likes to get in his own zone as the music drops and as his riding goes. Sandoval just sailing on through. Looking at some of the highlights, there's that big double tail at the end of the run. The battlefield as we have 2 riders yet to go. Daniel Dhers, our current points leader. In 2016, he got 2nd place. He said, you know what, in 2017, I want to be on top. And Daniel Dhers currently is looking like he might be that rider. If he can get into the finals, he will have the best chance at potentially putting a #1 on our UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup men's semifinal.
Really see him visualizing and going through trick for trick of this run before he was dropping in there. Look at that 720 way down the landing of that spine.
Landed manual, that's on the back wheel, where your front wheel is off the ground right there. Not enough to loop out off the back end like we saw Brandon Lupos do, or Kenneth Tencio. But Dhers showing you why he's a veteran. He knows the pressure's on just as much as Lupos had. He's just got to make the final. If he doesn't make the final, and potentially another rider like Daniel Sandoval does, they're going to have an opportunity to clear a lot of those points gap. Because currently, Dhers has 5,100 points between him and Lupos. Lupos did not make the final. Sandoval is yet to qualify, and there's 6,400 points. So Dhers will have to miss the final, and Sandoval would have to basically finish extremely high for there to be a difference. But Dhers right there getting a good run in, and he knows with each run, regardless of the final, he is putting himself potentially positioned better and better to be our champion. So Dhers right there, Mr. Consistency. And we're going to see, right, the advantage of going towards the last rider as opposed to the first. You get to see what the rest of the field did. You say, hey, who crashed, who didn't? How deep do I have to pull down in my bag of tricks? What's the weather going to be like tomorrow, right? If we're maybe potentially going to have rain, you'd say, hey, you know what? This run really counts because it might be a final score. But right now it is our 2016 defending champion, Logan Martin, currently sitting in 4th place overall in points.
Big transfer with that backflip tail whip as Logan shreds around the course, going for another transfer, spine to the box jump, takeoff, huge tuck no-hander way above the sky.
The Hyper Rider 360 downside double tail whip, just letting it fold over into that tabletop. Logan, I believe that was a double tail whip. He's got the triple tail whips on lock. Let's see if he winds up pulling into his bag of tricks. Backflip bar spin. Martin right now, 20 seconds to go. Even though that he did not make the finals earlier in the year and Daniel Dhers was able to put a substantial lead in that points race, Logan likes to be on top of any podium.
5 seconds, Logan. 3.
Logan coming in here, alley-oop, just blasting a nice smooth air right there.
There we go, Logan finishing off the first runs of this last heat, applying some pressure to Alex Colborne, who is going to be dropping in next for his second run. Mind you, Alex Colborne had a very strong run as well. It's going to be very interesting to see how it lines up. Check out some of these massive highlights from the Australian.
We're looking at Logan Martin. Also, our next rider to go is Alex Colborne. The two reasons I want to highlight these athletes, you can check out so much footage, not only from the competition of FISE, but also from their everyday riding on that Worm app. Do yourself a favor, download the Worm app. It's one of the coolest things out there. I've spent so much time just going through footage, especially a rider like Alex Colborne who could do wild tech combinations. Also those off-axis spins. You can really slow down those precision moments and see how does he do a trick where he throws the bars around, maybe puts his foot right in that front wheel. Such a cool interactive experience. You just go to the App Store, type in the word worm, download it, and then you put up your own content as well, which we could check out. But right now, Colborne in run number 2, pumping around over the spine, transferring to the box jump. Colborne, X up, cutting it up. Charging, yes!
Yes, beautiful 720 bar spin as it comes back around to the other side of the park, getting a tuck no-hander over the hip. And this is winding down to the last 20 seconds of the run, where Alex usually starts doing a few technical tricks, showcasing the diversity in his riding ability.
Yeah, I mean, this is really what separates Alex from the rest, when he gets so tech and consistent at the end of his run. Let's see if he winds up on our honor box jump, tail whip, tail tap, park spin in. Final moment, opposite bar spin, and that is time for the Monster and Worm rider.
So very consistent, but very different 2 runs coming out from the British lad.
So Colborne right here, off axis, bar spin 720, rotate bars, flare tail, a lot of height, just, you know what, I'll throw in a flare tail at 6+ feet on a quarter pipe. So that means Colborne's run is down. Sandoval, Dhers, Martin, 3 more riders, 3 more runs. To find out which one is going to be the top 12 of 24, moving on to our UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup Final, which will be taking place right here in Chengdu, China tomorrow. You could download our FISE app to see all different schedules. You could also log on to FISE.tv to check out not only highlights from today and content, but to stay up to date on results.
Sandoval charging across course there.
Oh, Sandoval letting it rip, getting totally sideways. Daniel's bike color, he's got that gold and red color scheme going on.
You know, I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, it's a bit. Oh, Sandoval not getting Sandoval. the right pop out of that quarter pipe, having to hit the eject button. Very uncanny.
And right now, if you are Daniel Dhers, you are saying, hey, you know what? If that crash cost Sandoval from qualifying, that might potentially give me some breathing room in the finals as far as a points race goes. So Sandoval right now, he is the rider's potentially silver bullet to try to get into that final. But let's see, Daniel went down, he wound up recovering. He's got the style on his hand with the good bike color scheme. He's also got the matching shoes. He did have that one crash, he had a solid first run. The score that's going to be important to beat is that 76.4 will be the score to beat, currently held by Pat Casey. So if you're Pat Casey and you're sitting on the sideline, you are biting your fingernails. That means if you are Pat Casey, Anthony Jean-Jean, Declan Brooks, or Kostya Andreev, that's 9th through 12th place, you potentially could be booted out of the final, depending on how our 4 riders do. And that is Colborne, Sandoval, Dhers, and Martin. So right now, Daniel's got that pressure on him as well. He might look cool, calm, collected, or I should say focused, sharp, and ready to go. He's got that look no matter what the competition is. He is a seasoned vet. If there is a major competition, he's definitely won the gold medal. He's held up the cup. And right now, he wants to do that for our FISE World Series. If he can hold up a World Cup, that would be his honor. In the zone, flare up top, coming down with 360 double tail whip. So crazy, Ryan, the way he just held on to that, getting that last rotation as he wound up just barely in the nick of time, tapping down. Bar spin to tire tap was not intentional, but looked really cool.
Wow, corked out alley-oop 720.
Or I should say, I don't believe that was in. Oh, whoa! Daniel, very uncharacteristic. Wow. Daniel going down on a rotation over the hip. 360 tail whip. I wonder if he was riding so relaxed. This could be a game changer. This could potentially be a game changer.
If this would mean, but a slip-up like this, still holding his composure going through, it's definitely not going to mean that Daniel is in the top spots for contention going into the finals.
Yeah, but get this, though. Pat Casey had that crash, and he's sitting on the bubble. So we could see that the judges are really favoring crashes negatively with a lot of weight and a few exclamation points. He had this crash, and we didn't see some of the, like in Edmonton, the big transfer tricks where that wild double tail whip transfer with the 360 in there, and then when he got up from the crash, I'm not putting his riding down, but it wasn't charging full speed, full pull. It's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen here. So Logan Martin, your 2016 defending champ right now, dropping in, currently sitting in points in 4th place. Whoa!
A nice cork 720 transfer.
Great.
Going back for another transfer the other way from the spine.
Yeah, great use of the course right there. You see him just floating across, utilizing the box and spine in both directions. Double bar spin going over. Logan Martin, tail whip to bar spin. Logan with the tuck. Backflip tail whip. Logan with a great second run. Let's see. Crucial 20 seconds. Flare tail whip. Tail whip coming down. Let's see, Ryan. Can he keep it together?
6 seconds left. An alley-oop, 270 on the honor hip. Logan Martin wrapping up our BMX semifinals out here today.
Wow, Ryan, the question on everyone's mind, especially our current points leader, Daniel Dhers, will that crash take away from his score where he will not qualify? His runs, will it be enough even with the crash? The score to beat, which is currently being held by Pat Casey, is a 76.4. So Daniel Dhers, Alex Colborne, Logan Martin, and Daniel Sandoval need to beat a 76.4. But what that also means right now, 8 and above, Marin Rantish, Jack Clark, Nick Bruce, Colton Walker, Yurik Ryzev, Cam Peake, Ricky Veranek, Jonathan Camacho are all in. 9th through 12th have been yet to determine. If our 4 riders in our last heat all get above that score, held by the Russian Kostya Andreev, which is a 79, that means that they will be sitting in. And our 9th through 12th will be out. So right now, Kostya, Brooks, Jean, and Casey are biting their nails. Daniel Dhers, a lot is on the line. Your current points leader, if you are in the finals, you get awarded a lot of points. You can see the focus on our judges. Van Homan crunching some numbers. These are such important moments if you're in a judge. This is so stressful right now because you have to weigh up how does a crash impact it. And you've got to basically judge off of how did you compare the other riders. Right? So you can't just look at Daniel's riding and go, well, a crash is this, and that's the score I'm going to give, because you got to try to make it as fair as possible. This is a UCI sanctioned event. We're going towards the Olympics. Pat Casey had that crash, and he's sitting on the bubble at 12th. So that crash can really, really impact the score right now. I am very interested to see if it will be enough for Daniel Dhers to get in there. We want to hear from you. Do you think it will be enough? You can follow us on Twitter at FISEWorld. Throw down that hashtag FISEWorld, FISE20, or FISE Chengdu, and let us know. We want to hear from you. This is the nail-biting moment. If you got your smartphone out, you could also follow us on Twitter at FISEWorld. If Snapchat is your thing, a lot of behind-the-scenes action. FISEWorld Series. On Facebook, not only do we have a lot of live behind-the-scenes footage, it is FISE.official, and you can follow us on the web at FISE.tv.
Let's take a look at some replays out here from our 6th and final heat. Alex Colborne, Daniel Dhers, Daniel Sandoval and Logan Martin wrapping up Heat 6.
So here are the highlights. The judges have these 4 athletes' runs in their head right now as they're trying to determine who will be in and who will be sitting on the sidelines tomorrow for our final.
The question for us is Daniel Sandoval and Daniel Dhers both had uncharacteristic crashes within one of their runs. Is that going to be enough to determine that they are not making it into the finals, or will they still be in, and in what position? Because, like you said, it's a huge points race for Daniel Dhers, making up the lead and seeing if he is going to end up on top after this Chinese stop.
I mean, the pressure is on. This is the big show, not only for our 4th and final stop, but this is a UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup competition moving towards Tokyo Olympics in 2020. This helps set the stage as riders start moving and building in that direction. The fact that we've been at 3 other stops around the world and this is the finals, consistency is the name of the game. Daniel Dhers, the reason he's been on top of so many contests, he usually does not crash. It's such an uncharacteristic aspect of this. Right now, the real question is, will it be enough?
You guys have been watching us throughout the whole entire year. You know that there's tons of other content coming up. Make sure you stay tuned because we are going to have the FIRS Roller Freestyle World Cup semifinals happening at 2:50. That is just in under an hour. The roller is going to happen. Then later tonight at 4:45, we're going to have the MTB Pro Slopestyle semifinals, which is happening on some massive jumps that they have built right beside the course out here in Chengdu. So stay tuned for all the rest of the action happening out here on Saturday in Chengdu.
Yeah, Ryan, it's going to be exciting watching our mountain bike slope style. I'm going to be calling the shots with you. It's very exciting. The fact that the jumps are so big. I know I come from a BMX background, you a mountain bike background. It's going to be cool to actually see the difference of the two, talk about it, especially as me having an opportunity to be a part of kind of the mid-school BMX dirt revolution, and now you being a part of the mountain bike revolution. It's going to be really cool to kind of break down the differences under the hood. But right now, this is the big moment, the nail biter. The suspense is here. It is building. Will it be enough? We had Daniel Sandoval and Daniel Dhers. They were in our 6th and final heat. They had 2 crashes. They are both sitting at the top of our points race, and will it be enough to get into the finals? We had 24 riders. Top 12 will be moving on from the semifinal, going on in. The question is, will it be enough? The score to beat was a 79 or better, or excuse me, I should actually say they had to beat Pat Casey, who was sitting there at the 76.4. Kostya Andreev had a 79, so they've got to fit somewhere in that realm. You can see the judges, there's a lot of concern on their face. They're kind of put a lot of energy in and thought. They have to make their decision and put in their scores right now. There's a lot of action going on. You can see the man in the gray cap up there holding the iPad is Bart de Jong. He is the UCI technical delegate. He is a lifer when it comes to BMX. And we are going to see, will it be enough, Ryan? That is the question. Will Daniel Dhers make it?
No, he has not. Logan Martin is going to be the top out of heat number 6, pushing himself into 2nd place. Still not high enough to touch the 88 from Marin Rantis. Alex Colborne, respectively, in 3rd place with an 87.8, only 0.10 of a score behind Logan Martin. But moving down, Declan Brooks is going to be on that bubble spot. The first man we saw making it from Heat 1 into the finals. But this is what you've been talking about. Daniel Sandoval finishing in 15th place and Daniel Dhers in 16th. Both those riders are not going to be qualifying for the finals that are happening tomorrow.
Wow, this is an enormous story that is taking place here in Chengdu, China. Daniel Dhers, our current points leader going into the final, did not qualify. That is huge. That is similar to how earlier in the year, Logan Martin did not qualify for one of our final event. That is why Daniel Dhers was able to get that significant, substantial points lead. But now what we're seeing right now is the tables have turned, Ryan. The tables have turned. Logan Martin will have his opportunity to fire back and hopefully have his swing in the ring and his chance to potentially take back that top score in our final tomorrow.
That is the opportunity that we were looking for Logan to have. Maybe it's going to come back and mean that they're going to have that tight points race, but we are going to have to sit and wait, just like Daniel Dhers is going to be waiting throughout tomorrow's finals on the sideline to see how the contest is going to unfold.
Wow.
Check out the winning run right here from Marin Rantis. This is his first place out here for the semifinals.
I know the big story has been the suspense that Daniel Dhers did not qualify, but we don't want to take away from our winning run and our winning athlete from Croatia of our semifinal. To be on the top of any competition here at the FISE World Series, whether it be a qualifier or a semifinal, is such a big deal. And Marin Rantis being on that top spot. The big story, Logan Martin being in the finals and Daniel Dhers along with Brandon Lupos and Daniel Sandoval not qualifying.
Thank you everyone for joining us out here for the UCI BMX Freestyle Park semifinals. It's been an absolutely roller coaster of emotion. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow for the finals, but as well stay tuned for the FISE Roller Park semifinals coming at us in half an hour. I'm Ryan Meyer. Now, thank you very much for joining us and see you again.